Alright, we're going to do bar tape. Now, there's a lot of different ways of doing bar tape, and everyone seems to have their own idea. But there actually is only one right way to do it. This is how you do it. Oh, by the way, I'm using this Physique Vento tape, which I'm excited to try out. So I have this little extra piece here, and I'm going to cut that to size here around the back of the lever. So like this. I'll peel off the backing. It's just going to fit right around that section there. And that's to keep it from having any gaps in the tape after we wrap it. So here's the tape, and depending on which direction you go from, you will either feature or not feature this Physique logo. Now I don't particularly want to show it, so I'm going to start from this end. And you always start from the top of the bar, wrapping towards the bike. So I'm going to peel off the backing. We start at the top of the bar, moving towards the bike, whichever side you're doing. And I'm going to start with maybe half of the tape sticking out over the edge so that we can tuck it into the bar later on. Now the reason we go in this direction is that when we're putting our hands on the bars, like here, your hands are naturally going to rotate this way, and that will tighten the tape. If you wrap the other way, doing this would loosen the tape. And then when you're up here, it's the opposite. Your hands are going to go this way, and if you wrap in this direction, you'll keep that from loosening by tightening. Also, I put an extra piece of older tape along the top here, kind of notched it so I can make it turn. That'll give me a little more cushion along the top. You don't have to do that, but I just want to do it. So I'm going to start wrapping. So once we overlap, we're going to just do overlap roughly half of the tape. You can kind of use your discretion on how much you want to overlap it. I like big gap, like larger, wider spacing. I just think it looks better, plus I'm less likely to run out of tape. And you can see based on the direction that I did it, the Physique logo is going to get wrapped over by the next pass. So just take your time. You can always go back and correct your mistakes if you make any. So just check your spacing as you go. Make sure it's nice and even. When I did my first bike, I actually wrapped them incorrectly and I didn't really change it, and I left it like that, and every time I rode my bike it bothered me. So best to get it right and correct your mistakes while you can, because you're going to be staring at these bars every time you ride your bike, and if you do them wrong or it looks weird, it's going to get on your nerves every single time. And you're going to pull this pretty snug. You're not really supposed to pull it super tight and stretch it, but it should be pretty taut. So once you reach this point, you'll see that we're going to start crossing over this little separate piece. We're going to pass under the shift lever, like so. After the last pass under the shift lever, you're going to go one more time under the bar. Then you're going to come over the top this time and maybe overlap a little bit of this shifter, like that. And you can see that that little piece covers that gap that's left over. And on this side it does the same thing too. That piece here covers what the tape missed. So that's why this is the only correct way to do it. Other people wrap like a figure 8 around this shifter, and that means you don't need this piece, but then this thing becomes really huge and bulky with too much tape, and you run out of tape when you get to the end. So that's why this way is superior. I'm also going to try to push this cork tape down so it stays nice and smooth. I did a similar trick with extra tape on my Ritchey Road Logic, and I liked how it felt, so that's why I'm doing it here. Plus I like the feel of like larger bars. Okay, so I'm going to pick where I want this tape to stop, and we'll just say we want it to stop like right here. Pull the tape along the same angle that I was wrapping it, like this, and I'm just going to cut along this line here. So I'm going to cut pretty much like this. Okay, once you get that line going, you can back it off a little bit and cut the rest like this, and we'll wrap it back like this. And if you did it right, then this should be almost like a straight line. I'm going to hold that tape there and then use my little piece of finishing tape from Physique and just wrap in the same direction. And I'm actually going to cover over this with just regular electrical tape, but I'll do that at the end. So that looks pretty good. So we'll pull the hood over like this, then we'll take our plug, we'll just tuck in our tape into the bar end. Bar looks pretty good, so we'll do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so basically everything on the bike is done. Everything shifts and brakes well. So the last thing I'm gonna do is attach these frame protectors, and the frame actually came with these Ritchey frame protectors, which you'll put on your frame to protect it, obviously, from cable rubbing or rock chips, things like that. So some real obvious places would be here, in case your chain slaps the chainstay. You don't want to protect that place there. I'm going to put one here because you'll get a lot of rocks hitting the frame around this point here. I'll put one down here as well. Then I got all these other little smaller ones which you can use here and there. For example, right here the cable touches the head tube, so I'm going to put a protector there. Same thing on the other side. I'm going to first shift this into the biggest cog to give me the most space to play with over here. So we'll just shift that. And I'm also going to disconnect these cables to give me more access to this. You can see how these Ritchey Breakaway cables disconnect. So I'll just loosen this and you'll see that these cables separate. You'll do this when you're taking the frame apart to pack. So I'll disconnect this brake cable up here as well. Next, I'm going to clean the frame, or at least the parts that I'm going to apply the protectors with some rubbing alcohol down here under the down tube, behind here as well. And the chainstay, where I'm going to put that frame protector, and then here on the head tube, going to clean that. So I'm going to start with what I think is the most important one, which is the chainstay protector. This one's like the extra long one, and it's kind of skinny. So I'm going to take that off. Wow, it's actually pretty like heavy, or pretty thick. That's nice. And we'll just kind of line it up exactly where we want it. Right around here is good. Gently set it in place. So we'll just press it down out towards the edges. Make sure you don't leave any like air gaps or bubbles. If you did it right, you really should almost not see it. It should pretty much be invisible. Next, I'll put one here to protect the seat tube. So we'll do the same thing. Start at the top and then press down towards the outside. Okay, next I'll do one along the bottom of the down tube. That way when this hits the frame, it's not gonna like dent your frame. And I'll do one more right here where this cable touches the head tube, and just put it right where it's gonna touch. So I'm done with my frame protectors. So I'm just gonna reattach these cables. So I can just double check that to make sure it shifts. Okay, seems good. That's nice, so you don't need any readjustment for the derailleur cable. Same with the brakes. Close that. Brakes are good. So now we are totally finished. Okay, here's my completed Ritchey Breakaway gravel bike. It's a road bike, but I sort of kitted it out like gravel bike. I have the wide WTB tubeless tires, the gravel bars with the flared drops. I have a super comfortable Brooks Cambium saddle. Rim brakes, since I hate disc brakes, rim brakes are lighter and cheaper, way easier to maintain. Disc brakes are a huge pain in the butt, so I'd rather go with rim brakes. Everything else is SRAM Apex 1x11, and that makes it easier for me to take the bike apart when I want to travel, and also gives me a really low 42 tooth cog for really difficult climbs. I also have the Hunt 4-season wheel set, which is a little bit heavier but more sturdy than the Aero wide wheel set that I have on my Ritchey Road Logic. Hoping to take this on some light gravel. Anyway, that's it. Thanks.